in the name of Yahweh Shai. Yahweh, LaHashem, Hakah, English translation for the power. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Please, I can see the power clean spirit, to cast them out. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Thank you. So be it. Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, miraculous. I am alone. Psalms 121, English translation. I will lift up my eyes unto the hill. I will lift up my eyes. Made heaven and earth. Which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee. He that keepeth thee. Will not slumber. Will not slumber. Behold. Behold. He that keepeth Yashala. He that keepeth sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade. The Lord is thy shade. Upon thy right hand. Upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day. Serve thee. The Lord shall preserve. Going out. The Lord shall preserve thy going out. And thy coming in. And thy coming in. From this time forth. This time forth. And even forevermore. And even forevermore. Of course, reading about the law right now. Shabbat Shemayim. Yahweh. Rakazaka, Haya, Kasalak Nawa, Kawawaf Ganawa, Wala'a, Zabayar Nawa, Parashaya One, Abba, Hawashai Nawa, Mayan, Waha'ala, Waha'ala. Yes, sir. The Lord's Prayer, English translation. And forgive us our goodness. The kingdom.
Right on, right. A little bit of technical stuff going on. All right. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakatham. Yahweh Shema Tamba Shem Yahshua. This is the ISUPK. Started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, in 1969, under commanding General Yohana. And we're here to teach the truth of the Bible to so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, or the real Israelites, according to the scriptures. Let me just check the audio real quick, make sure everything's to Wab. Y'all bear with me 1 second. All right. Shalom, Yahweh. All right, cool. Yeah. Thankfully, this type of class doesn't require a lot of high-tech stuff. We have when we were playing videos, I was trying to play a video of when we were doing the LASHAWAN QADASH prayers during the Passover and during the feast days. It's very important that you see the men that came before us, that you could tell, like when we were watching the footage just now, if you're able to see it, hopefully he's not skipping too bad, that General Mayat was able to very successfully read the Hebrew, and you could tell that comes from years of holding down Sabbath services, holding down the feast days, rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord. And so when we read prayers, it's definitely with the dialect of the LASHAWAN QADASH, which is the ancient Hebrew. This is not like modern Hebrew, where you have other vowels that have been added over time. It is more of a direct version of the Hebrew, okay? And that just goes without saying. That's how we rock it. You can tell by the way it sounds, it's very, very strong and very direct. Now, what we're doing today is we're picking right where we left off in the previous class, where we started a series where we call it battle rap. This is just a prayer in the book of Psalm. No different than Psalm 83, no different than Psalm 121 like we do during the Sabbath service. This is another prayer. A lot of the songs that are in the book of Psalms, they are actually prayers, okay? Because they're songs to the Lord. This is actual conversations of things that could be referred to as prayers, because it's like someone's praying to the Lord, but it's through music. This is the language of the ancients, and so we call it battle rap because these are bars that were said thousands of years ago, and the nation of Israel would say things like this, praying to the Most High. And it couldn't be any more relevant today than it was back then, okay? Because this is definitely something that our people still need to pray for. When you read what we have on the board right here, it says, again, a Hebrew class. So though I have English written above these characters here, Hebrew is read from right to left. So as you get used to seeing these characters, you're going to be going this way, and you're going to be going this way, all right? Now, don't get it confused, because sometimes it may kind of line up a little bit when you try to read it in English, but it's read it like this. if you're reading the English part. Okay, that's how it's meant to be. So just try not to get confused with that. Also, when we're doing a recap, we try to do the recap real quick before we erase everything on the board to continue where we left off. I would like to try to do another 3 verses today and try to keep that cadence because we did 3 verses last class. Okay, so we got the whole entire alphabet right here on the right side. You know what I'm saying? So you can actually see how it sounds. Okay, I have that written right here so you can actually refer to that whenever you need to. And I try to write the characters on the board as close as I can to the way that it looks right here on the right side so there's be no confusion. So let's go ahead and actually read what we did last class. This is the first 3 verses of Psalm chapter 140. Okay. And so it says, to the chief musician, a psalm of David. Then this is where it actually begins. It says, deliver me, Yahweh, from men of evil, from men of violence, preserve me, who plan evil things in heart continually. Daily they gather together for battles or for wars. Then verse 3 says, they sharpen their tongues like a serpent, the poison of asps or vipers under their lips. Salah. Now, how relevant is this today? There are many people that are considered evil in the world who do things behind the scenes and have no regard for human life, have no regard for specific people, especially the people of the Lord, who this prayer is referring to, protection for. Okay. So you have to understand that that's the type of reality that we live in. This is something that has always been in place ever since Jacob and Esau, ever since Cain and Abel. You understand? Ever since Adam in the garden against the snake. And so it's no coincidence that you even see them referring to like a serpent, because the way that these people are that are evil, they're very sneaky. You know, the scripture says that he's of the most subtle beast of the field, and that would be the snake, because it's hard to see them until it's too late. You understand? Until you hear that rattle, and then they're right next to your leg, and they bite you in the leg, and they send that poison into your bloodstream. That's no different than how they prepare their warfare against us. Okay, it's no different than when we're out at camp and you see people that are trying to keep us from having camp, trying to stop us from doing what the Lord wants us to do, to go out there and teach. And they do that in multiple ways, but one of the ways that they do it is they try to sneakily override the laws of the land so that they can have their way, because that's just what they do. You understand? And bring no proof and bring no documentation. They just want us to move away from where we've been at for the past 5 years and want us to, up and leave without any kind of, resistance or anything like that. But we know our rights and we know what we got to do. And this is no different than any other battle that they've planned against us, whether it be battles to get us to be, drug addicts, whether it be plans that they have to destroy our education system, whether it be the plans they had to lower the nutrition and the food in our supermarkets on our side of town. It's just, there's so many different things that at this point, conspiracy doesn't even seem like conspiracy anymore when you see scriptures like this that are very clear and present to what we see in the news and what we see on social media. So that there be no confusion there. This is a prayer that's very relevant to today, because Israel is still being persecuted and destroyed from violent people, from people with ill intentions, and people who say things with a sharp tongue, meaning that they know how to work the system and change the narrative in their favor and make us look like we're the bad guys, when in fact we're the ones that are doing the work of the Most High. So let's not get confused on who's the good and who's the bad. We see the fruits of our labor and we see the things that we do. We're holding down our culture because we know what time it is. We know who the enemy is. We know who the protagonist and the antagonist is in this story. So there should be no confusion about that. And we should be that much more zealous about our purpose and our culture and the taking back of our culture. And so let's go ahead and get into the Hebrew now. So we start off, La ma natazach, ma za ma war, La dawada, Kala tazanya, Yahweh, ma adam, Ra'ai, ma ayash, Ka mas yam, Hamasium. That's an interesting word. Violence. Hamas. It's Hamas in Hebrew. Okay. Thanatazar. Slakia. Thanatazaranya. Thanatazaranya. Ashar. Hashabwa. Ra'aiwaf. Balab. Kal. Yawam. Yagawarwa. Ma lachama waf. Shananwa. Slakia. LASHAWAN LASHAWANAM. Then it says Kamawa Nakash Hamas I Kashwab Tachas Shabbath Ya Mawah. And then it finishes with Salah. Salah is kind of like putting a period at the end of a sentence. It's kind of like a way of saying, almost like Salakia. Usually even Salakia is like a courtesy. A courtesy that we say at the end of something, we say something that happened. Oh, Salakia. Blah, 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 blah. And then when we're done saying what we got to say, we say Salakia. That was it. So it's kind of like no different than what this is right here, because it's saying this piece, saying a complete thought, and then it ends it with the Salah as a way to put a break between the next group of precepts that are going to be talking about some other details. Okay, let's read it one more time. Then we're going to go ahead and erase the board. Now's the time to get a good screenshot, because this is a prayer that you could write down in your notebooks and you could read on your own time whenever you need to read a prayer, whenever you feel like you're being persecuted, whenever you feel like the oppression of this place of the man is after you because you got child support payments, or you got you gotta let go from your job, or you're dealing with all types of judicial issues in this place, or anything that seems like your life is in danger. This is a scripture to be talking about between you and the Most High. Okay, so don't underestimate the strength of the LASHAWAN QADASH, and the more that you read it, the more fluent you'll get with reading it and saying it. And then the more you read it and say it, you'll remember more things. And that's really what this is all about. It's about getting that muscle memory, starting to get that vocabulary down, and understanding more and more as we go along. Let's go ahead and read it again from the top. Let's go ahead and read it with a little bit more flow to it. It says, Lama na tazach, maza mawar, la dawada, halatazanya, Yahweh, ma adam, Ra'ai, ma ayash, Hamasyam, Tanatazaran ya, Ashar, Hashabwa, Raiwaf, Balab, Kal, Yawam, Ya Gawarwa, Ma Lakamawaf, Shananyawa, La Shawanam, Ashawanam, Kamawa, Nachash, Hamas, Aikashwab, Takha, Shapath Yamawa, Salah. And again, what we just read, Psalm chapter 140, verse 1, where it says, to the chief musician, a psalm of David, deliver me, Yahweh, from men of evil, from men of violence, preserve me. Verse 2, who plan evil things in their heart continually. Daily they gather together for wars. Verse 3, they sharpen their tongues like a serpent, the poison of vipers under their lips. Salah. All right, that's the first 3 verses of this prayer. It starts off pretty hardcore, you know what I'm saying? This is definitely one of them prayers that definitely outlines an enemy, a physical enemy, a human being, okay? So this is important, because a lot of times when we're reading the scriptures, a lot of Christians, they'll read the Bible as if evil is not human beings, but of course, it manifests into what humans are, but it comes from an evil from what? From Lucifer, from Satan. So you got to understand that Satan does work through nations of people that do his bidding, and even sometimes our own people that Satan manages to seduce into living the way that they live, and then of course them being implemented into their society. That's no different than the Israelites that were found amongst the Greeks and the Romans, who were against Christ and against the things that he was teaching because they had a little bit of fame and fortune in the lands of Greece and Rome. And so keep in mind that integrity is super important in these days, no different than it was back then. And Christ definitely has his eyes set on brothers and sisters who are not falling into the things that this place has put forth to try to distract us from our purpose. Okay. So we're going to continue in these verses. We're going to go straight into, let me see. All right, let's see. We're going to go into verse 4 today. Let's go ahead and get that. Let's see. Again, this is Psalm chapter 140. And now we're going to verse 4. So, this is verse 4. Okay. It's pretty big characters. I don't know if I can keep them all that size, but we'll see what we can do. So, yeah. I'll try to draw these characters large so it's easier to see. Yeah, how well? It's pretty easy to see if that's most high. My yad, yeah. My yad, yeah. Rashai. My ayash. My ayash. Keep me from some of this seems to be kind of like a repeating of some of the things that they were previously saying. So we'll see some similar words. A great chance for us to get some more vocabulary words down. It's very important when certain things are said more than once. It's important that you really understand what's being said when you see them more than once. That first line is those characters are such large characters. I might have to try to draw a little bit smaller, but hopefully y'all can see that pretty good. So mas yum. Mas yum. Not this. Kashawa. La da was. I'm yeah. All right. So there's verse 4. Should we might not have room to do all three, but we'll see how large these verses are here. Yeah, 6 is kind of short. Let's see what we can do. Let's do one verse at a time. That way, the whole time just writing without me breaking things down. So, first off, this gives us the perfect opportunity to read what's on the board. Even if you don't know what's being said, you can still read it because we can pronounce these characters. Okay, and so it starts off like this: Shamaranya, 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 Yahweh, Yahweh, Mayadya, Mayadya. Okay, and it says Rashai, Rashai, Ma'ayash, Ma'ayash, Hamasyam, Hamasyam, Thanatazaranya, Thanatazaranya, Thanatazaranya. You understand? It says Ashar, Ashar, Hashabwa, Hashabwa. Next phrase, La da Khawath, La da Khawath, La da Khawath. Then finishing off the verse is Pa'imaya, Pa'imaya. Okay. So that's a pretty simple, simplistic way to get it. If this is your chance, this is the best time to write down what you're seeing on the board. If you're using loose leaf paper, skip each line because you need space above so that you can write what's being said. That way you can see how it lines up with the vocabulary. One thing about Hebrew I will say is that since it seems like it's all written in all capital letters, because there's no lowercase, the only character that technically seems to be a little bit lowercase is Yah in the Assyrian, because it's just this little tiny note rather than like here, it's not hovering in the air. That's the only one that I would say doesn't look like a capital letter, but which is crazy because that's actually the first character in the Most High's name. And when you look at the ancient Hebrew, this is what it looks like. So it's a very large phrase right there as far as like the pronunciation of these characters. Let's read it quicker, then we'll break it down. Shamaranya, Yahweh, Mayadya, Rashai, Ma'ayash, Hamasyam, Thanatazaranya, Ashar, Kashabwa, Lada Hawath, Pa'imaya. Verse 4. Let's go ahead and break that down. Okay. Now, there's a root word here at the very first character that we hear quite often. That word is shamar. Shamaran Yah. It's been modified, but we know that what you see here is saying Shamaran Yah. Now, when we look at Yah and Na, we see my and we see Na, meaning will. So what it's actually saying when you translate it is let me go back to verse 4. There it is. Keep me. Keep me. Shamar means to keep. Shamar means to watch over. It means to protect. But that's what keep actually means. It's like somebody's a keeper of sheep or a keeper of any type of thing. There's a movie called Beekeeper by Jason Statham. You know, he's a beekeeper. He keeps bees. I mean, he keeps them safe. He keeps their habitation maintained. You understand? So this is a part of the prayer, an extension from verse 3, and he's saying, "Keep me, Yahweh," meaning like, protect me, Lord. Write the Most High's name in all caps. That would be your pronunciation of it in the English. So the word shamar, the root word right here for keep, shamaranya, would be how it's pronounced in this phrase right here. Yahweh, Yahweh, my yad, yah. Root word here is yad, yad. This right here means hand. We have ma in the beginning. When you look right here, ma is what you add to a phrase when you're trying to say from. Ya is again making it to where it's a possessive adjective. Okay, so it says from the hands and then it says Rashai. This means of the wicked. Keep us from the hands of the wicked would be the other nations, because the other nations were not given God's laws, neither do they know them. Okay, so they move around in darkness. They don't have the truth in them. And so it's quite honest, it's quite often that people try to defend the other nations, but the other nations don't practice God's law, so they are prone to violence. They are prone to wickedness because that's what their culture is completely enveloped in. So when we tell ourselves, oh, we got to separate, we got to be separate, we got to be holy, we have to come through and not celebrate the culture of this particular place, but rather the culture of the Bible in an accurate, dedicated sense. That's what makes it difficult, because people don't understand that if you're not with the Most High, you're on the other side of that. And so at any given time, anybody that's out there that's not from the nation of Israel can be used. It's no different than like the movie The Matrix. Any random person walking on the street can turn into Agent Smith and they on you. You know what I'm saying? It's no different than like a demon coming into the other nations. Hell, demons even come to our own people. That's why Christ even told his disciple, "Get thee behind me, Satan." So don't assume that you're saved either. It's just even more common for it to happen when it's the other nations. So it's why you got to be careful who you hang out with, who you surround yourself with. No matter if you're at work, no matter if you're, just chatting with people that you know from school and that kind of thing. Don't let them things influence you. Most High is protecting you from the hands of the wicked, meaning keeping you away from their influence, keeping you away from their ill intentions towards you. Okay, that's why it's mentioning that this is in fact wicked. The root word right here is Rashai. It's the whole thing. I just want to make sure. Ma'ayash. Ma'ayash says from men. We've seen this in the previous verse. Ayash means man. Just like Adam means man, Ayash also means man. We covered that in the last class. There's multiple vocabulary words for man or men. Okay. Ma, same rule as before. We saw that right here. When we see at the beginning of a phrase, it means from. So from men. Ma Ayash. Ma Ayash. Start remembering that word. Ayash means man. Okay. Or men. Ayash. Hamas yum. We covered this in the previous class as well. It's going to be one of our vocabulary words today. And it says violent. Violent. Notice that it says Hamas yum. And so this is talking about a plural version of violent, which is committed by multiple men that you see in this. So when it's saying men, it also translates violent in a plural sense. That's why the yam is right there. This is the root word, Hamas. Hamas. I'm pretty sure that Benjamin Netanyahu said that quite a few times today during his address to the United Nations or whatever. He's definitely feeling the heat right now. That's for sure. Hamas. Hamas. What this means, this word right here, Hamas, means, I'm going to get this right here, violent, unjust, unrighteous, Hamas. Okay? That's another vocabulary word. Hamas. It's crazy though, because when it was translated to Arabic, the word Hamas which is where that word, like when you hear about Hamas, which would be the people that um are the fighters that are against the Israelis in the Gaza Strip and other places. Hamas means zeal in Arabic. Can you believe that? In Hebrew, Hamas means violent, unjust, unrighteous. So that's the root word. So it's kind of funny how like they name themselves that, and that's what it actually means, and that's how they actually act. So it's I mean, you know, you look at the Israelis, they're not much different from that in their own certain way, right? Doing what they're doing against the Palestinians. What I will say is this: the Most High is going to organize everything so we know that who's real and who isn't in the end time. So big up to the Lord for really pushing the narrative forward in these last days. That's damn right. And so keep in mind when we're going through this, every now and then I'm going to put vocabulary words. Let me know if that's in the way. I might need to move the camera down. So the root words, you'll see it in the brackets. So if you have a separate piece of paper, you can literally take that, start writing down these vocabulary words in bunches, because you're going to see Rashai, that means wicked. Yad, that means hands. You can write all these down to be like the vocabulary words from the class today. Shamar, Ayash, Hamas. We're getting a lot of vocabulary. That's why I like breaking down entire precepts, because I can show you the rules while giving you vocabulary. Yahweh, right? This is probably the most important vocabulary you can learn. You understand? It's the Most High's name. Da na tazaranya. Da na tazaranya would be the next phrase right here. Da na tazaranya means preserve me, not tazar. Not tazar. You understand? Not tazar. So he's saying, preserve me. Preserve me. Root word here is preserve, not tazar. Yeah, it's like ashar. Ashar means who. Preserve me. Who kashabwa. Kashabwa. Have purposed. And the wa is at the end. Wow. No, that's no. More about that later. Chashab is the root word right there, which means purposed or conceived. That's another good word. Conceived or purposed or planned. Another one is invented, imagined, devised. So when they say have purposed, it means basically a plan of sorts. So this is continuing. He says, violent, preserve me. So he's saying, Yahweh, he says, keep me, Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked, from men that are violent, preserve me. Who? So it's kind of like, this is kind of like the break, even though there's no actual like grammar. The thought ends right here. See, from the violence. I guess you could say the best way to translate this would be of violence, because this is plural. Okay. So I'm saying from men of violence, preserve me. That makes it flow a little bit easier. Just for the sake of y'all hearing the translation, that should be how it is. La dachawath. La dachawath. To make stumble. Yeah. To make stumble. The root word here is the ka. The ka. It's technically these two. The ka, which means to drive away, to thrust down, to push violently, or to trip, stumble. This is a great vocabulary word. I want to get this one down too. This is ra. Oh, it's da. My bad. It's da ha. Technically, it's supposed to have a ha at the end. So just keep that in mind. So it looks like this. I'm gonna write it in English. Da ka. Da ka. And it means to thrust down. Also means trip. It also means overthrow. And can also mean chase or drive away. Okay, so that's another vocabulary word. We got some vocabulary words, just racking them up today. Okay, some good ones too. Kashab, which means to conceive. La da ka wat. Ha I ma ya will be the last one in this phrase. My steps. So the root word here is pa'ima. Pa'ima. We'll just go ahead and connect these. Pa'imya, which means my steps. Pa'imya. They plan to make me stumble. They plan to push me over. What does it say? Thrust down, overthrow. It's like when somebody like trips you, or when somebody runs into you and just shoves you out the way, makes you stumble and fall. So that's the idea that he's putting in the mind right here. And he's praying to the Most High that he's protected from those that seek to make him stumble from the righteous path, to make him basically unalive him or to put him in danger. Okay, because that's essentially what it is when you push somebody down. It's the intent to harm. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat real quick. Let me just make sure that everything's wild. Let me know if you have any audio issues or any skipping of the video. Let's get it. I tried, sis. Okay. Hey, Shalom, look right, sis. Olivia, Sister Olivia, I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna have to get a whole new set of markers. So Salakia for them being a similar color. They're technically a different color, but it's technically a different color. The other ones that I got, they're not right and clean. Look at this. It's so hot in Texas that the markers go bad. Actually, this one might work. This one might work. I'll try using this one. Oh, that's right. This one's not actually a dry erase. That's why I can't use this one. Now I remember. Yeah, this one right here it don't erase easy, so I can't use this one. Yeah, this one's not dry erase. It's not made for boards like this. I'm like, man, what? This is a good marker right here. Turns out, nope, can't use that one either. I don't even know why it's up here then. This one's for like writing on wood floors and things like that. So I don't know why it's up here. Separate those. Or rooms the board. I tried green because I wanted to show you. Look, this one right here. It's a little bit faded. I had just bought a whole new set of markers, and because it's so hot in Texas, it dries out the markers sometimes, and they go bad. They don't stay moist enough to write well. It just be hot in Texas, you know what I mean? It just everything is crazy. So Salaka for that. I tried to move it up a little closer. Let me check the visuals to see if it looks a little better. Go ahead and get to the next verse here. This has been an excellent class already. We might let's see what we can get. Let's see what we can get. We're gonna go to the next verse. We're gonna go to verse 5. Again, we're in Psalms chapter 140. Now we're going to verse 5. I'm gonna go ahead and write it on the board. So bear with me 1 second while I write it down, and then I'll give y'all a minute to write it as well. So it's gonna be looking like this right here. So Ta manawa. So it goes like this: Ta ma na wa. That's how it starts off. Then it says ga yum. Ga yum. And it says pa Pach. Like ya. Okay. And it says wa kabal yam. Wa kabal yam. Keep an eye on the connectors. When you, and of course, a lot of the people that have seen Hebrew when we do these classes, technically Hebrew doesn't have these little frownies and smileys under the characters. This is just so you know which ones to pronounce by themselves and which ones you join to the next character. So wa cha bal yam. Instead of saying wa cha ba la yama, wa cha bal yam. So you start with this pronunciation, you end it with that pronunciation. So what is it? Well, we'll break that down here in a minute. And then it says pa rashwa. Pa rash. See, that's the tricky thing. It's like these characters look great. These ones look great because they're large. But I can't fill the whole board with that because then we'll literally only get maybe 2 verses. You know what? We might have to do that today. I'm gonna try writing it in a larger font, and then we'll just do the 2 verses today. Let's start from the top. I want to make sure y'all can see these. These have to be very legible. Try it again. So it's ta manawa. Hope this is a little better. Ta manawa ga yum. All right. It says pa like ya. Wa khabalia. Wa khabal yum. Wa khabal yum. Parashwa. Parashwa. Yeah, that looks much better. I can't do much as far as the other ones above it unless I use one of these faded looking markers. And by next class, I'm gonna try to have some a new set of markers so y'all could see the contrast between the colors better. The next one is Rashath. Rashath. My God. My God. It says my God. My my God. My quash young. I tried to fit it right here. This one's kind of tough. My quash young. I managed to get that to work. Oh, sorry, Christ. Let me make sure that the camera picking up on the bottom of the board. I don't want y'all to miss that. Yeah. All right. We need to make sure that we can see the bottom because I'm about to draw one more line right here under. Those are some large characters. That's going to work just fine. The English under it might not be as large because I don't care about the English as much as I do the Hebrew, but that's just me. Y'all know. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's finish this one up. So it says ma kwash yam. That was right here. Now we're gonna finish this right here. It says shathawa. Oh, shathawa. Shaya, really? Shathawa. Laya. And then Salah. That's verse 5. Verse 5 right there. Got some big characters there, no doubt. Let's actually start by just reading it. Before we have a bunch of chicken scratch there. Wow. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and repeat after me. Take a look. See if you can start recognizing these characters. If you've seen this enough, you'll start picking up on it. But the idea is to get practice. That way you can start catching the flow of it. Okay. Starting to remember it. Tamanawa. Tamanawa. Ga'ayam. Ga'ayam. Pa. Pa. You got pa right here. Then you have the cha right here. It's like a ladder. Pa. La ya. La ya. Wachabalium. 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 When you look at the character wa, it's interesting because it looks like what we know today as the character Y or Y, right? That's the English letter Y. Well, in the Hebrew, it looks like a Y, but it sounds exactly like Y, but it's pronounced wa. So when you spell it, like if you were to transliterate it to English, you would say wa with a W. Okay, so just trying to get that mixed up. That just means wa, wa, wa kabal yum. Then it says parashwa, parashwa. Okay, parashwa. Next it says rashath. Rashath. Okay. Layad. Layad. We recognize Yah from Yahweh. We recognize Da from Dawa Da, King David, right? Which is the two triangles. So we've seen that La withstood the test of time. La and Za are some of the most reliable characters in all of existence. And I would say Ah too, but it looks like that one stumbled and fell over. We know it as the character A in English. But Ah definitely looks like Ah. It actually represents the head of a camel or head of a cattle of some sort. And it says La Yad. La Yad. One thing you'll notice to help you memorize the characters Ma and Na is that it actually has also held some similarities with what we know today as M. No, I'm already thinking in Hebrew. M and N. The characters M and N. So when you look at the ma and then you look at na, what do you notice? Less squigglies on the na, more squigglies on the ma. So ma in Hebrew looks like this. Na in Hebrew looks like this. Ma represents water in a body of water, while na represents seed that goes into the ground, a single seed. So that's what they visually represent. That's what the Hebrew is a pictorial language, and LASHAWAN QADASH is a language that we would call today memes or pictorial or hieroglyphics. Okay. How far did we get? We were la yad ma'aigal, ma'aigal, ma'quash yam, ma'quash yam, shafwa, shafwa, la ya, just like right here. I-la. Oh, so like it's supposed to be salah. Let me rewrite that. This is a sa. If you wrote that in your notes, go ahead and switch this out. This is sa. It's actually kind of easy to get sa mixed up from the Hebrew to the Assyrian, because when you look at this, sa looks like this. That's sa in the Hebrew, but in the Assyrian, it looks like this, like almost like you're drawing a stick figure, but with a cowlick, right? That's kind of what it looks like. That's sa. In the Hebrew, I looks like a circle, just a circle, because it represents your actual eyeball, and that's how it was pronounced even back then. I. So don't get sa and I mixed together when you're translating from the modern Hebrew to the ancient Hebrew. Okay, ma'aigal, but right here is salah, salah. Okay, so let's go ahead and translate this. Let's get this into English. That way we can read the whole 2 verses that we've broken down today in great detail. This is, again, Psalm chapter 140, verse 4 and 5. So here's verse 5. Ta manawa. Ta manawa means have hidden. Have hidden. This is like speaking in past tense, right? So the word taman, taman, boom, taman. That word means privily or in secret or hidden. Okay, have hidden. So we're adding a wa at the end of that. Okay, and that's what makes it past tense. Adding the wa at the end makes it past tense. Adding a wa at the beginning is adding it to another thought, meaning and. So don't get it mixed up. Wa can be added at the beginning or the end. But the root word here is taman. So this is joint. Taman. Tamanwa. Tamanwa. Next is ga'aya. Ga'ayam. The root word here is ga'a. It's just these 2 characters. Ga'a. Notice the yam is what makes it plural. So when you start seeing a lot of these modifiers, it makes it easier for you to do a process of elimination to see what the root word is. And then as you start recognizing that root word and you start seeing these characters more often in the sentence structure, then it starts to really, you're able to commit it to memory pretty easily after seeing it so many times with certain words. Some of them easier to learn than others, right? So it's going to take some time. That's perfectly fine. The scripture says, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word that you may grow thereby. And it feels like that when you have to learn it all over again in the ancient Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? Because we can read English because we're used to it. But when we read in Hebrew, that's a whole other challenge. A whole other challenge. Ga'ayam. Ga'ayam. It says proud. When we say proud, this definitely is referring to more than one person. That's why the yam is there. Okay. My steps have hidden the proud. The proud have hidden their snare from me. Okay. technically. Have hidden the proud. This is Yoda talk right here, because in the English translation, you would say the proud have hidden. We're reading it in Hebrew, so it says have hidden the proud. So it's kind of like, that's why I always refer to Yoda, because he be saying stuff backwards and stuff, and he's supposed to be the wise, whatever in Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? He's like, have hidden the proud, or something like that. I can't do his voice. I'm terrible at it. But that's how backwards Hebrew is. But technically, English is backward, and Hebrew is the right direction. So it just takes some getting used to. Pop, a snare, a trap. The root word pop, it means spring net. Spring net is a trap, so a trap. A spring net could be something that is in a forest that springs up to catch an intruder, or even think of a spring net as one that is placed in the ocean to capture a bunch of fish, right? A whole school of fish. You just run that net, it picks up a whole bunch of them. The fish don't know what's going on until they're being pulled up out of the water and can't breathe no more. That's a snare of sorts. So pa, la ya, it means for me. For me. When we put ya at the end of a phrase, it means me. La, when you put it at the beginning of a phrase, means to me. So 2 and 4 are somewhat interchangeable right here. And it's funny because there's technically not really a root word here. There's no root word. When I'm looking at it in the Hebrew, it doesn't even have a Hebrew Strong's designation. So this is just put together with 2 of these modifiers. La ya means for me or to me. La, when we say la ya sha'alam, when we do a toast, when we sip the wine at the beginning of Sabbath service, we say la ya sha'alam. Okay, we're saying to me, so la ya. Wa kabalium. Wa kabalium. Okay, wa kabalium. Chords. This is an awesome. This is an awesome vocabulary word. Cabal. Okay, not hubball, but cabal. Okay, cabal means band, company, snare. It's basically, it says and chords or bands. Which would mean actual rope, something that intertwines and can fasten or tie together something, right? Cabal. When we think of even in English, the word cabal, CABAL, is something that refers to an organization or a company of that has a similar agenda. So it's kind of it's interesting how even that is similar to actual band or chord, because a cord or a band is nothing but some rope that's tied with other rope that makes an even stronger rope. So how cabal, even in the English term, kind of means that too, because it's like a band or a company that is comprised of multiple entities that are trying to push forward an objective. Maybe it's a war objective, maybe it's political, maybe it's something like that. But cabal is something that's always referred to when people talk about things like the deep state or say shadow government, terms like that. So that's actually very interesting because Hebrew is kind of bringing it back to the root source. While kabalium says and chords, bands, plural, yum. Yum is added at the end of a phrase to make it plural. Y is added at the beginning to say and. So we're saying the proud have hidden a snare for me and chords. It says parashwa. Parashwa. They have spread. The root word here is parash. Parash. What did we say earlier? When we see a Y at the end, it means have. So when we say wa, we can actually safely say now, we've seen this enough times, wa means past tense. What do we say? Has? Oh, have. This makes it past tense to see a wa. Here's your wa right here. Parashwa, which means they have spread. Meaning they have already done it. It's in the past. The root word here is parash, which means to spread. Then it says rashath. Rashath, which means a net. Rashath, a net, as in catching animals. Rashath. That's the rule. It's the whole thing. It's all this. Layad, which means by. Okay, we'll just go with that. Because I see the word yad, which means hands, which would mean two hands. Two hands. But it's just layad. That's just the vocabulary word. Okay. So it says layad, which means by. Then ma'agal. Ma'agal. The wayside. The wayside is meaning like the other path. Okay. So ma'agal. It's the whole phrase right here. Okay. This whole phrase, the wayside. Okay. The wayside would mean the path. Now, think of it like this. Where would you put a net or trap? You wouldn't put it in somebody's view. You would put it on the wayside, meaning the path on a side that is not as noticeable that can then spring up and catch into it. So it's almost like this verse is damn near paranoia, but it's not paranoia because he knows of the danger, he knows of the snares, he knows of the the conceived plans that are against him. He sees very clearly. He's aware of the danger that they set on purpose for the sake of trapping him. Okay, that's the kind of reality that Black and Hispanics are facing here in America. No different than back then. They were rapping about this. They were making music about this. That's why I said that these are not, Psalm is not just songs, everyday songs. This is what real hip hop is. And when you think of real hip hop from the 90s and the 2000s, it was about awareness. Okay. I don't even want to say consciousness because that word is just tarnished by now. Okay. From all the different communities out there. But to be aware of what's happening in your communities, to be aware of your enemies that are planning against you. This is what hip hop is. Psalm chapter 140 is hip hop in the Bible, because this is exactly what real musicians nowadays will do with their voice. They'll make sure to spread awareness to the dangers amongst our people in a way that is enticing, in a way that is catchy, that gets people to understand and to stay aware of their surroundings, in hopes that they don't make wrong decisions that put them in danger, and that they don't trust their enemies that are actually seeking to destroy them. Okay, so real hip hop that we're talking about here today, this is battle rap bars of the ancients. We're going to finish up this verse here. Maquashyam. Maquashyam. Oh, this is traps. So if you want to be even more, it says a net by the wayside, traps. Maquash. Traps. You know what I mean? It's no coincidence that the ghetto is considered a trap. You know? It's just the whole thing is a trap at this point. We're just surrounded by danger everywhere we go. You understand? From the moment we come out the womb, babies are getting hit with vaccine that give them autism. That's what I think the president of the United States just admitted that. You understand? So it's like you can't get away from these snares and all these different dangers that they put. Even your babies ain't safe the moment they come out the womb. It's crazy. This is the reality we're in right now. We better pray to the Most High with real Hebrew from the ancient days, man. We need this. Shathwa. Shathwa. It says they have set. There goes that wa at the end. They have set. Shath is the word right here. We already know that. Shayath is the original word, but we'll go with Shath. That's what it says. I'm just translating it. It says they have set. And it's referring to those traps that they have set. Laya, it says to me or for me. Boom. Same thing. For me. Salah. Hope y'all understand that this ain't just some regular prayer. This is like it's incredible to see this because we're reading it in the Hebrew and it's relating to our life today, man. This is just it's another prayer to add to your repertoire. So for those of you that are tuning in, you're getting some pretty interesting exclusive information right here that you can share with your brothers and sisters in the school. Say, hey man, look, I got this prayer. We're breaking down Psalm 140. This is real hip hop that we're talking about. Ancient hip hop, man. You know what I'm saying? Sent up to the chief musician and given the go ahead by King David to be authorized to be added to the book of Psalm. You understand? So it's saying Shemaranu Yah, Yahweh, Mayadya, Rashai, Ma'ayash, Hamasyam, Ta Natazaranya, Ashar, Kashabwa, Ladakwath, Ladakawath, Slaki, Pa'ayamaya, verse 5, Tamanwa, Ga'ayam, Pa, Laya, Wa Chabaliam, Parashwa, Rashath, Layad, Ma'agal, Makwashim, Shathwa, Layad, Salah. It almost rhymes. It's crazy. When we're reading the Hebrew, and it flows easily with itself. The whole language is made like that. So it's as hard hitting and heavy hitting as Hebrew sounds. It does actually kind of rhyme. It'd be interesting to hear how this was pronounced back in the day. But that right there, again, we just read it in Hebrew. We'll recap this at the beginning of the next class before we continue into this excellent prayer right here of Psalm 140. And again, translating to English, it says, "Keep me, Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked. From men of violence preserve me, who have conceived to make stumble my steps." Verse 5, "They have hidden the proud, a snare for me, and bands they have spread, a net by the wayside, traps they have set for me." Salah. That's an excellent prayer to the Most High, because we know what's set for us. Tomorrow we know the trap that's set for us at camp. You know what I'm saying? This will be another prayer that we're gonna read before camp, because this is an excellent prayer. But that I hope that that y'all learned some information from that. These classes are definitely a lot of information, and so we try to get you a good amount of information without overwhelming you. And so definitely tune in. We'll definitely be making a playlist to have all the classes leading up to now, because there's been one more class before this. But even once we get through the whole chapter, I'm gonna make a playlist that's gonna be titled Psalm 140, so that you can always come back and get the whole breakdown day by day as we continue to get through it. So start filling that playlist up more. But that's been, of course, our LASHAWAN QADASH class for Friday. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Definitely send a like, share the video if you're able to. You know what I'm saying? And tune in next Friday, because we'll be continuing this. Hopefully, get another at least 2, maybe 3 verses in, because I think there's like 12 or 13 verses in this chapter. So we're gonna keep chipping away at it till we get it all the way finished. Okay, and with that, this is the ISUPK. Started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York in 1969, under commanding General Yohana. Shalom.